So, I was kind of needing to get that email finished up. Google is getting very glitchy. It does that when emails get a little too long. This is Tripoli. They will have Greek language on them, and yet the people who are making this are supposed to be the remnants of the Phoenicians in Tripoli. So here, that is the caps of the Divine Twins. You have this here that is Apollo. That is supposed to be two crossed staffs. This is supposed to be Titia. That is a cornucopia, which becomes very important. I'm sure you are aware of the Hasmonean coinage that has two cornucopia on it and has the pomegranate in the middle. Here you have the Divine Twins. These simply are not the Dioscuri. This is Shahar and Shalim, because they are the morning and evening star. And you see it again here. You have them on horseback, and which, again, that is something that is very common from the Indus to Iberia. So this is supposed to be Nike with a laurel. You've got the Divine Twins there. What's weird with this one, it looks like she is trying to crown a star. A lot of these are going to be different. So this one, you can see their caps a little better, but what you can see in this one is you can see one of the stars above the caps. Divine Twins, but you also have a palm tree on the back, which is going to be very important as this goes along. Here, you can really see the wings, but you really don't see anyone being crowned with a laurel. You see the Divine Twins again. And that one's very clear with the cornucopia. And these stars are easily seen. So this is Astarte, because this is ultimately Inanna Ishtar. You see her in her lifted leg pose. The Divine Twins again. Is that the one where they're wearing caps? There'll be some better ones. It's a little easier to see her there, with her foot on the prow of a ship. Yes, so there's Divine Twins with the caps. So these are in Tripoli, and these are Divine Twins, except I've found Nabatean coins, or what is supposed to be Nabatean coins. That has a king and a queen, and looking very, very similar to this. Some of these will have Holy Zeus on them. Apparently Hagos means holy for the Greeks. So there you have the Divine Twins that is supposed to be like a bust of Astarte. There you have the Divine Twins, and you have date palms above their heads. Here you see the Divine Twins flanking Astarte. There's their leg up pose. You see their stars above their heads. So this should be Helios on the other side, and that would be Luna on the other side, because that's how Phoenicians remaining in Baalbek would see it. To the best of my knowledge, that's how they would see it. It's hard to tell what this is. For some of these that are better looking later on, I don't know if that is supposed to be a bust, or if it's supposed to be a bird. That is supposed to be a fire altar in the middle. Here you have an eagle. For the Phoenicians, the eagle would be associated with Melkarth. You see a victory laurel in its beak. Down here you see the caps and the two stars of the Divine Twins. This one, it's a little easier to see them. Here, Helios looks more radiant with a crown. And some of these, they obviously changed one of these. Again, the Divine Twins beside Astarte. There you can see what is clearly a bust up there. That one pretty easily. the divine twins, is that Helios and Luna in one of these, they look more cow-like. That is supposed to be Astarte leaving a temple. One of these will be much clearer. That one's a little clearer. You can see the lifted leg. The divine twins again with their caps. And some of these somewhere, so at least they do call it Sol and Luna. Some of these, it's Zeus Hagios is supposed to be wearing the Aegis. I don't know how they know that. It's really hard to tell. So this one, it looks like Sol is down to 3 horns. But here you can clearly see that Luna is horned. And again, that looks maybe like a bust or a bird. That one looks kind of like the Sphinx, but some of the other ones don't look like the Sphinx. So that one there looks more like a bust at the top in the temple. But here you see where Sol looks like he just has 2 horns. And Luna looks like she has 2 horns, and her face is far more cow-looking. It's very easy to see the fire altar in this one, though. This is the one that's real easy to see Astarte coming out of the temple. So we're going to go over here. This is from Phoenicia, obviously. You have to knit, but, well, this isn't wanting to enlarge. What I think that is on the left side, I think that may be an etrog. What you would see on the right side looks like it's going to be a pomegranate. And you have these 6 petals. These 6 petals, obviously I'm assuming of the lily, but also of the 6 wings of the seraph and also of the Merkaba. If you keep making circles, you get like wheels within wheels. If you keep doing it, you will basically get those 6 wings. You could say, well, that's something someone did later on, except this is from Phoenicia. This here is a 6-pointed star from Baalbek. Another 6-pointed star from Baalbek, but you clearly see the 6 petals of the lily in it. It's kind of hard to see in this one. So you either have 6 or 8. And 8 is of no consequence because when you get to 8, you clearly have the Star of Ishtar, which sometimes does differentiate between 6 and 8 points. This is the Magdala stone. This was found in Migdal. This is actually supposed to be representative of the temple that was in Jerusalem. The menorah of great interest here does not look like it has 3 legs exactly. But there you see the 6 wings. You also get them on the other side. This is Baal-Hadad. People think that is his hair flying back. It is not. This is representative of a menorah. He is wearing a canonical hat, like warrior deities, like Shamash, like Baal-Hadad, because that's basic. The Phoenicians basically saw all their deities as ultimately a male and female pair, and that that male and female pair could rejoin. Excuse me. Here, as you can see, the cherubim on the right is bigger than the one on the left. The face is much thicker, much rounder. The one on the left is smaller, and it has far more delicate features like a woman. So it is very evident in this one. This is Nabatean. This is Atargatis. You will see the much larger lion on the right and the much smaller lion on the left. I don't know if the lioness is supposed to have a mane. I have seen drawings of this, and I think perhaps people who draw it purposely add a mane. But on this one, even though that quality isn't kind of good there, I don't see a mane. And whether there is or is not a mane doesn't really matter in light of the fact that the one on the right is so much bigger than the one on the left. None of this is incidental. Hadad, her husband, has almost kind of a corona halo effect around his head. This is from Mesopotamia. This would be like the Cyclops that is named I, that is also associated with in Mashara. He is clearly busting out of somewhere and fighting lions. Without any real evidence, people call this guy Nurgle. It is not Nurgle. Nurgle either looks humanoid or he is a winged lion. They have no indication that this guy is Nurgle, and ultimately because he is not Nurgle. This is from Hatara, Iraq. These people were heavily influenced by the Nabateans in their day, and you can see that because that is Atargatis with a Kos eagle on her head. Those are the things that are going to tell you that this is not Nurgle. You see a planetary staff in her left hand that is representative of the classical planets. You see the animal on the right is bigger than the animal on the left. You see the Kos bird on the top of his head. The weird thing that with this guy and another version of him, both of them are missing their right eyes. It would make no sense for, like, thieves or grave robbers or even archaeologists themselves to do that. It makes no sense, but he is clearly missing an eye. The thing with the scorpions here, the Scorpio with its red star is kind of seen as being an enemy of Mars. He carries an axe with a scorpion tail. That is, Malkarth does carry an axe, sometimes different versions of an axe, and here you see his 7 classical planetary staff. Here he is again, and as you can clearly see, he has no right eye. Here is Atargatis, surrounded by the zodiac like Thanos or Mythokronos. She is represented by the moon. And that is Nabatean. Here you have Ishtar surrounded by the zodiac. If you bother to count those out, you will get 12. And then a lot of things you'll see regularly in here. You will get the moon and the 7 stars. Winged sun disk, those are pretty normal as well. So the thing that Nurgle never has, and that is likely being Nurgle under her feet, that is a small lion with her lifted leg stance that she is known for. You see Nurgle's double lion-headed mace, but what Nurgle never got was the 6-pointed star that is above it. And typically with Inanna Ishtar, you will see what would be possibly 6 weapons on her back, but I ultimately believe this is supposed to be representative of 6 wings. This is from Phoenicia, so that looks like, I think for what this meant for a lot of stuff for Phoenicians was that, depending on literacy rates, they just basically use symbolism, and they would just tell people what these symbols mean. So this looks like a moon in different phases, but it also looks like an eye, and it also looks like an eclipse. I have a theory that older versions of the letter Shin were also supposed to be representative of breast. Some of them look more rounded, like a pair of breasts. I also believe that some of these Tanit symbols is supposed to be like a male chest with a wound through the center of it. This one has a very big fish. Some of these will have dolphins, but it's not clearly dolphins. You have the 2 intertwining snakes, and you have the hand. And again, people think this is a hand raised in oath. It is not. So this is a rare coin of El Kronos, and as you can see, he has 6 wings, and he has a staff. Some more stuff from Phoenicia here. So again, part of my theory that's they are kind of mixing up these symbols and also making these symbols of Tanit look like a chest wound, much like the quote-unquote Cyclops that is being stabbed by Nurgle. That is likely in Mashara, who eventually became Ya or Inky, where you have like an eye in the middle of a sun. You get the intertwining snakes here, and then you basically get what I would call, the sun moon eclipse. It's also an eye. It's a couple of different things. This book is so new that I haven't been able to get it on an interlibrary loan. But it's supposed to be about the Romans kind of as they would put it, appropriating Phoenician culture, except, well, they definitely did that. They did that with everyone's culture. But the Phoenicians were just never wiped out. They were never all imprisoned. There were always traces with them in all of the places that they lived. People make the mistake of thinking Baalbek is just Roman. No, the Romans took over. Phoenicians still lived there. Phoenicians still lived in Carthage. They still lived in Tripoli. They were still in Iberia. They were still in Ibiza. They were still in all of these places. You have a rainbow behind an angel, so you could have also what looks like a chest wound. You have what looks like could be a child. You also have what could be an eye, as well as an eclipse in a moon. You see the Tanit symbol surrounded by two doves. Here's how you know it is not a hand lifted in oath. That's because, as you can see, it has the eye inside of it. This, by all accounts, should heavily predate amulets that are supposed to ward off the quote-unquote evil eye. But there you see the eye in the hand. You see that it's also the other thing that I call the sun-moon symbol. The typical intertwining snakes of some of these things. This one, I'm assuming, supposed to be, a dolphin. This is from Karn. This is Eshman. But Eshman heavily predates, I'm not very good at saying his name, Asclepius. I'm not very good at saying his name. I do apologize for that. But I am confident you know the Greek deity I'm supposed to be referring to. And as you can see there, you see the snake around the pole. This is the only example I've ever found of this coin. He is caped also. He's also holding something else in his right hand. It is hard to tell if he is supposed to look like a horned figure. But that is supposed to be Nike getting ready to crown him with a victory laurel. So here you see the bigger male head on the right, the smaller, finer detailed on the female head on the left. On the Saphir throne, what I think a lot of people lose sight of here is that is a sea. That is like the laver from the temple. Obviously not the bronze sea that they had at the temple, but nonetheless something similar. And again, here you can see that the male head is much bigger. It is, messed up, but it's so much bigger than the female one on the left. And here's the classic that everyone is familiar with. If you go and look, the owl on the right is slightly bigger than the one on the left. The lion on the right is noticeably bigger than the one on the left. None of this is incidental. I've seen people who can make incredibly accurate art on either side, but if it keeps happening exactly this way, no matter where you look, it is not incidental. There should be more examples of where they're, the one on the left should be smaller. And for some of these, it is very clear that the one on the right is supposed to be male, while the one on the left is supposed to be female. And of course, here we have Asherah. This one's supposed to be from Israel. The divine twins at her breast, goats eating sacred trees on her hips. This is supposed to be Atargatis. That is hard to tell. But what you do see to the right is Sol. What you see to the left should be Luna. You do kind of get the leg lift that you would have with the Astarte. As you can see, the lion on the right is still bigger than the one on the left. And you have the snake going around the pole. But from what I could find out, this is certainly Nabatean, a better look of what you would have with the other one where like an angel is holding up the zodiac with a Nabatean Atargatis inside. This too is supposed to be Atargatis. You see some obvious Egyptian influence. But again, this one's very male-looking. You still see the snake. But the male-looking part isn't kind of an oddity when the androgyny is a regular feature, because ultimately these are always supposed to be pairings of males and females. They wouldn't call her Asherah there, to the best of my knowledge, in Ugarit. But you see the 8-point Ishtar star upon her head while she is suckling the divine twins. This would be the quote-unquote lady from a tale from Urgarit. That just repeated again. This is the Nabatean god Dashara, who is heavily associated with Kos. You see him sitting on an Ashura chair. You can't really compare the heads because the one on the right is so badly damaged. You see him with what looks very similar to the planetary staffs that the other ones had. This here absolutely positively is Kos, which, by the way, Drashara is associated with both Zeus and Dionysus, ultimately because this is all the same character. It's really not that weird if you think about it from the Tanakh. Abram was Abraham. Jacob was Yisrael. There are multiple people with multiple names. I believe that's really the broader tradition that we're looking at here. Because if it wasn't, these same deities wouldn't keep being conflated together as like one entity or two entities that can eventually become one. And here you see the 6 points of the lily, or the 6 wings. If you count the rays of the sun, you are going to get 12 rays. And this is supposed to be the overall bigger thing. And they assume that is to be like a version of Atargatis to his left there. But again, it's so badly destroyed. And again, this just kind of seemed like the easiest way to do this. These are all these striking similarities between Zeus and Zeus and Dionysus, but between Dionysus and Heracles. So both of them went to the underworld. Both of them were resurrected. Both of them were driven mad by Hera. That is ultimately because this is the same person. And it's the same old stories where the Greeks got a hold on something Semitic and then they just split it between two people. Both known for partying and drinking and all these other things. Cultural appropriation. Both Heracles and Dionysus were adopted by conquerors and cultures like Alexander the Great to identify with their power and status. But of note, as with Dionysus, with the ecstatic dances of his followers, that is why when the Greeks got to Hindu territory and they learned about Shiva, they believed that Shiva was Dionysus because of the ecstatic dancing. That's ultimately because this is the same exact entity from the Indus to the Iberia, and some places stretching out farther. Hercules, after he is resurrected, marries Hebe, or Hebe, I'm not quite sure how to say that. And she used to be the cupbearer of the gods. And so she is like the goddess of eternal youth. And there are those instances of where the Hroch is able to maintain people's longevity. Again, you have the massive drop-off in lifespan with the antediluvians. I'm not sure if I'm even saying that right, but with those who existed before the deluge. And so, again, you keep seeing the same exact things from just one story. This is how much older Eshmun is than his Greek counterpart. So, going all the way back to the 14th or 17th century BCE. There is nothing Greek that you will find older than its Semitic counterpart that it originally came from. Asclepius, maybe that's how you say it. But again, all of this is so much older. These all have Semitic origins. That's his first instance in the Iliad at about the 8th century. So here you have Dumuzid, who is killed by a boar. And here's the weird thing of part of this about the idea of the immortality, and I think they're trying to figure out how could, like, this indestructible god just keep dying and coming back. So they kind of figured out some reasons, or intended some reasons. But Demuzid, like Adonis, like Demuzid, is of course also killed by a boar, and in some of the stories, that boar is Mars. So you have the fourth labor of Hercules with this wild boar that's causing all of this damage. And Hercules, like Melkarth, slays a lion. Because basically Hercules, again, they're all based off the one guy. Here in one particular myth, where the deity Set becomes a cursed pig that tries to kill Horus. Again, because all of this is just one story. Lettuce was the favorite food of Set. And of course, there's the rather lewd story of Set trying to sexually humiliate his nephew Horus. And the Greeks associated lettuce with death and male impotence. And again, this is something that goes back to Adonis. So with Hebe here, this is part of where we may be getting to this. With the word ambrosia being linked, possible to a translation related to immortality, undying, and life force. But I'm kind of thinking that it's, one or the other. There is no instances showing that Adam Richman is immortal. When he has a soul breathed into him, he just receives a soul. So either he receives a soul, or with God breath, essentially, representing revelation. And so this right here, if we can actually see this, is it on here? So this is supposed to be the oldest thing known of Dionysus. It did have a picture earlier. Oldest Dionysus. So it's going to be this back here. As you see, Dionysus is much darker. This is the oldest known image of him. That does not look like his more typical Thyrsus. And right behind him is the goddess of eternal youth, Hebe. Here you have Shiva being associated with snakes as well, and Dionysus is also associated with snakes. So here, that one doesn't look as much like the Divine Twins, but here you can see they have a coin that is very similar to the Hasmonean coin with the crossed over Capricorns. But one of these, unless it was just a really bad picture. With that one, that is supposed to be the same couple, but that one is a little harder to tell. These are supposed to be from Nabatea. There you see the sun. And there you assume that's supposed to be the sun. And this is supposed to be representative of the moon. And you see the Kos eagle above them. I really can't find anything more on it. It's something in here supposed to be like a Kos seal. That is supposed to be a tragic Dionysus mask, as well as a dolphin over there. This is Phoenician art. I thought it was Phoenician art. These are Phoenician seals. I thought it was going to stop on that one piece of Phoenician art with Sekhmet. Sekhmet is kind of wearing what is considered to be like the proto version of the Aegis, the earlier version version of the Aegis. And again, here's that caught, as that caught my eye. You get the flower, you get the wings. So, I'm not sure who this is supposed to be. I think we may have actually already seen that. But not from a drawing, just from the actual structure itself. But as I had opened this page, the image that it was on, and I thought it would start there, would be on, Sekhmet. Let's see if I can find it right quick. Sekhmet. Phoenicia. And of course here, well, that is not Sekhmet. But this is the oldest version of the Asherah chair I know of. And here you see the pregnant woman. You see her giving birth there. You see the much larger, well, not super larger, but you see the larger animal on the right as opposed to the one on the left. Let's see. Phoenician artwork. One of the first things we see. So that is Sekhmet wearing what is considered like an older version of the Aegis. And Aegis is either thought to mean like goat shield or thunder shield. Before I end this one, just let's see if I can find anything else really quickly. No, I'm not saying anything in particular. So if that is Phoenician as they claim, that is clearly Mithras. If you've never seen a good picture of Mithras, see if we can see it here. One's more detailed. You will see like multiple animals attacking the bull. So you'll see like a dog. You'll see a snake. And here you actually see him being surrounded by the zodiac. You got Sagittarius. You have Cancer. But yeah, so he is surrounded by the zodiac here. I've never actually seen that one. I think this is the one I'm a bit more familiar with.